You're over 60 now, and you're still holding on to too many things, aren't you not? Because you're lazy, not because you don't know how to clean, but because you don't know what to let go of. First, a blouse your daughter gave you 10 years ago, a set of unused pots for when the grandkids come over for hot pot, a treadmill used for just 1 week, a wooden chair your late husband's. Each item, each thing, they're still there, and you stuck between memories and guilt. Maybe you still tell yourself, I'll clean it. Up around the new year, what if guests drop by? There's still room, and I'm still healthy, no need to rush. But there's one question that no one dares ask you honestly. If tomorrow you trip in the living room with the things you're keeping safe, you, Virginia, the 72-year-old woman I'm about to tell you about, I used to think the same until one unexpected fall made her realize what was hurting her wasn't her age. It was the things she couldn't let go of that day. It was a cold winter afternoon. The snow in the yard hadn't melted. Virginia had just finished a load of laundry. She held it in her arms and walked up the stairs. The light was dim. A draft swept in through the window. She turned down the hallway like every other day, and then her foot caught on something. No time to react. She fell forward. A dry, heavy thud echoed through the silent house. An old stool covered with a blanket sat in the middle of the hallway. Virginia had left it there to sit on when putting on shoes, but for the past 2 years, she hadn't used it once. Her left hand was swollen. Her right hip was bruised. No bones were broken. She was lucky, but the real pain was somewhere else. Virginia sat there on the cold wooden floor, holding her side. My heart clenched tight. For the first time in years, she looked around her home and no longer saw a warm nest. She saw a maze, a crowded space full of obstacles that used to be memories. Each item is no longer a companion. They had become gatekeepers, blocking her path, and maybe blocking the rest of her life. She had lived alone for more than 15 years. Her husband passed early. Her children had grown and moved far away. Virginia kept everything at first out of love, then out of habit, then out of fear, and eventually she didn't even know why anymore. Things were everywhere. The living room, the hallway, the kitchen corner, the storage closet. She walked around them, squeezed through, got used to the narrowing paths over the years, until that day when she felt everything became clear. I didn't fall because I'm old, Virginia said. I fell because I've been living too long surrounded by things I no longer need. I asked her, if your daughter came home tomorrow, would you let her walk through that hallway? Virginia fell silent, then whispered, I'd be afraid she'd trip just like I did. That day she made a promise to herself. She would no longer live among things that made her feel afraid. She didn't need to clean it all, didn't need perfection. But step by step, she would reclaim her home and her life. And what about you? When was the last time you tripped over something in your own house? Do you still feel safe when you walk down your hallway each morning? If not, maybe it's time to look around with a new pair of eyes. Virginia didn't need a bigger house. She just needed fewer things inside. The one she had to fall didn't break her bones, but it broke her habit of keeping everything just in case. And from that very first drawer in the kitchen, Virginia discovered the first brutal rule most seniors unknowingly follow without even realizing it. Rule number 1, don't keep things just in case. Virginia started with a small drawer in the kitchen. She used to call it her junk drawer. It was just one drawer, just a test. But you know what? That drawer opened up a big truth. What was inside? Old batteries, leaking acid, a roll of tape that had dried up, 3 ballpoint pens that wouldn't write, and 4 lighters. Even though Virginia never smoked, she looked at them, then laughed, half embarrassed, half mocking herself. Just in case you said that too, haven't you? What if I need it someday? What if the grandkids come over? What if someone needs it? What if there's an occasion? What if this? What if that? What if forever? Virginia wasn't messy. In fact, she used to be an executive secretary, disciplined, organized, precise. So why was she now living in clutter? She said, because I'm afraid of not having enough, afraid of not being able to manage, afraid of surprises, afraid the grandkids might visit, and she'd have nothing to offer, afraid that one day she wouldn't be able to care for herself anymore. And at some point the phrase, just in case, had become the excuse to keep everything, not because she needed it, but because it made her feel like she was still in control. But in truth, Virginia wasn't in control anymore. Those just-in-case things had taken up space in her home, and in her peace of mind. In the laundry room, Virginia also kept an entire shelf on it, a fondue set still in its box, 2 sets of elegant glacier, a waffle maker gifted on her 65th birthday. She said, I meant to use them, but I forgot. I asked her, if you were starting your life over today, would you buy that nut milk machine again? She paused, then slowly shook her head. I used to think it would help me live healthier, but really it just reminded me of how I failed. We keep things not because we need them, but because we're afraid to face ourselves, that we no longer cook like we used to, no longer have visitors, we no longer host parties like we did when we were young. And deeper than all of that is the feeling of no longer being the center of anyone's life. Virginia started asking herself a new question: does this serve me today? Not is it still usable, not does it have value, but does it help me live well right now? After that question, she began decluttering, not all at once, just a little at a time. She filled 3 large boxes, a box of clothes she'd wear again when I lose weight, a box of plastic containers for leftovers, a box of glasses and dishes for the next party. They had sat untouched for over 10 years. No one used them. No one asked about them. No one remembered them. Virginia donated them. No guilt, no regret, she said. I didn't throw them away. I just sent them where they're needed. Are you holding on to something like that? A dress you've never worn, a box of glasses, still sealed, a juicer still in the packaging? Now's the time to ask yourself, if I were starting life over today, would I choose to keep this item? Don't keep things just to have them. Don't keep things just because you might need them, because what you need most isn't more stuff. It's less of that stuck feeling. Virginia didn't throw anything away. She just sent those things to the place where they could be used and come back to life. The plastic containers. The unopened glass sets the nut milk machine once thought she'd use when she had more free time. The first 3 boxes were lighter than she imagined because they weren't attached to anyone, to any emotion, to any story. But inside that house, there was still one box heavier than all the rest. It sat deep in the closet, covered in dust, silent, untouched. For 17 years, Virginia hadn't forgotten it. She just never dared to open it. And the moment she learned the second brutal decluttering rule. Number 2, memories don't live in boxes. Virginia had a box that sat at the back of her closet, at the very bottom, covered in dust. She called it the past box. For 17 years, Virginia never opened it. She'd dust off the outside now, and then slide it back like it was never there. I asked her, what's inside, Virginia? She hesitated, then looked into the distance. My husband's old baseball glove, our first concert ticket, a handwritten letter, and the last hat he ever wore. I didn't ask more, because I understood some things can't be touched with hands, only with the heart. That day it rained. Virginia was organizing her closet when her eyes landed on the box for the first time in years. She didn't look away. She took it down, placed it on the table, and lifted the lid. The baseball glove, worn, but still shaped like his hand. Virginia touched it gently and burst into tears. He taught my son how to catch a ball, how to lose with grace, how to get back up after every stumble. Virginia whispered, like speaking to him, I never forgot you. I just wasn't ready to look back. Then she looked at me and said, I'm not holding on to this glove. I'm holding on to a piece of my life. I didn't say much, just offered her a small ritual. Take a photo, write a thank you note. And if she felt ready, pass it on the next day. She did exactly that. She placed the glove on a wooden table in the morning light, took a picture, and wrote this line. His hand held mine for 42 years. The same hand that taught my son how to play and how to be a man. I'll keep that feeling, no glove required. Then she called her grandson, a boy who had just joined his school's baseball team, and said, Grandma has a gift for you. It once taught your father how to play. Now it's your turn. Virginia didn't lose anything. She simply let go the right way, not by throwing it out, but by transforming a memory into a living legacy. Do you have something like that? An old letter, a shirt someone once wore, a gift is still unopened because the person who gave it is no longer here. Are you holding on out of love, or because you haven't dared to grieve? Virginia kept 1 letter, 1 photo, and a full heart. Everything else she packed gently and gave away, each item with a handwritten thank you note. A few weeks later, she made a small journal called her memory album. Inside, a log of each special item. She had let go 1 photo and 1 note per page, and 1 blank page for anything else she might part with in the future. She told me, I don't see memories as burdens anymore. I see them as old friends who've walked beside me, and now I wish them well on their journey. A question for you. Is there something you've never dared to open, a memory you've never dared to touch? If you opened it today, would you choose to hold on or say goodbye with gratitude? In the next part, I'll take you somewhere else, not a place full of memories, but a place full of danger inside. Any home, a place that could take away your freedom with just 1 fall rule. Number 3, the familiar corners are often the most dangerous. Virginia used to think that if she ever started decluttering, she should begin with the messiest spot. That is, until she fell, there was a small stool, one she had kept in the hallway, For 5 years, it blended into the floor tiles. No one sat on it. No one noticed it until the night the power went out. Virginia was walking from the kitchen to the living room. Her flashlight flickered. She was holding a glass of water. One wrong step, one wooden edge in the dark that fall. Didn't break a bone, but left her with a bruised hip and a sprained shoulder. 6 weeks of physical therapy. 3 months before she could climb stairs on her own again. Virginia said, "I didn't fall because I'm old. I fell because I believe my home was the safest place in the world." Have you ever felt that, walking through your familiar house and suddenly realizing it's not as safe as you thought? After her fall, Virginia started seeing her home with new eyes, not judging whether it was pretty or neat, but asking, is it safe? She noticed things no one else did: a curled up doormat at the front door, a slightly tilted bookshelf near a window, loose charging cords under the sofa, a plant pot at the base of the stairs, a hallway bulb that barely gave off light. Each little thing, each small thing's pretty. She called it the survival check. Each day, she walked one path with a flashlight, scanning close to the floor, every table edge, every cabinet leg, every rug corner, every outlet. She made small changes: removed the stool no one sat on, taped down the rug with non-slip adhesive, coiled charging cords with clips. She replaced the hallway bulb with a brighter one, added a motion sensor night light in the bathroom. Nothing major, but every small change helped her feel at ease. "I'm not afraid of aging. I'm just afraid that no one would know if I fell." When I heard that, I stayed silent for a long while, because I knew it wasn't just Virginia's fear. It's a fear shared by many people. After 60, accidents don't come from carelessness. They come from familiarity, the corners we walk past every day but never truly inspect. Now, it's your turn. Do you have a rug with curled up edges you haven't replaced? Is there a spot in your home you feel unsure about when walking past at night? Is there an item near a walkway you've never thought might be a hazard? Check. It's just one path from your bedroom to the front door, not to tidy up, but to help you live more safely. Virginia once said, "I don't need a beautiful house. I just need one where I won't fall again." After her fall, Virginia began inspecting every corner of her home, not to declutter, but to survive. And that's when she discovered something deeper. The most dangerous things aren't always the ones that trip your feet. Some hold you back by anchoring you to who you used to be. A box of documents, a fountain pen, a planner from 12 years ago. Virginia had never tripped over them, but every time she opened that closet and saw them, she felt like she was no longer herself. And that's when she learned the next brutal rule. Rule number 4, you're no longer the person you were 20 years ago. Virginia had a small drawer near the stairs. No clothes, no kitchen tools, just papers, notebooks, pens, and a small calculator. What stopped her was a stack of faded business cards. Each one is still printed with her name title. Senior Coordinating Assistant, Company Bartlett and Associates, office number no longer in service. Virginia held one up. Her eyes glistened. "I was the first woman to join their leadership team." She said, "That feeling of being called on in a meeting I missed, that drawer was like a storage unit for her old identity." The old calculator and used paper clips, a 2011 planner filled with meetings scribbled on every page. I asked, "Do you still use any of these?" Virginia shook her head. "No, but I can't bring myself to toss them, because if I lose these things, I'm afraid I'll lose the part of me that once did all those things. You understand, don't you? We don't just keep things, we keep old versions of ourselves." Virginia used to be a leader. Her calendar was packed. Her voice carried weight. Her business card once handed to others with both hands. What about now? She's still important, just in a different way. But to fully step into her new role, she had to let go of her old identity. Virginia laid each item out on the table. She didn't cry, just looked at them like greeting an old friend. She kept one business card, one fountain pen engraved with her name, and wrote a single line: "I was there, I lived fully, and now I will live forward in a different way." The rest she placed in a paper box, labeled it job. Well done, thank you. Now, here's your question. What are you holding on to from an older version of yourself? A binder of files, a wall of certificates, a sewing machine you once meant to learn. Do you still need them, not for work, but to continue being you? Or are you holding them just so you don't have to face the fact that you've changed? There's a simple test called the future self test. Hold the item and ask, will the version of me 5 years from now still use this? Does this still reflect who I am becoming? If not, then maybe it's time to thank it and let it go. Virginia said, "I'm not discarding the past. I'm simply choosing to live lighter so the rest of my life has room to unfold." In the next part, you'll see not everything in Virginia's house belonged to her. Some boxes in the attic had her children's names on them, things she kept for them, thinking they'd come back for them someday. But it's been more than a decade, and they never have. That brings us to rule number 5. Don't hold on to other people's stuff if they don't want it. Virginia had an attic, old wooden door, low ceiling, layers of dust. She called it the kids' floor. The kids were her 2 children. Now both are over 40. One lived in California, the other settled in Texas. What was in the attic? A few high school sports trophies, stuffed animals, boxes of old notebooks, CDs, journals, and a brown teddy bear with a torn ear. Virginia kept everything, every item, every box carefully untouched, unsorted. She said, I kept them for the kids in case they ever needed them. I asked, how long has it been since either of them asked about these things? She gave a sad smile. Over 15 years. And that is the hardest truth to admit. We don't keep these things for our children. We keep them because we don't know how to let go of the role of the mother who always keeps things just in case. Virginia shared, I used to imagine that one day my daughter would come back. She'd walk into this house and I'd open the box and say, look, honey, I kept it for you. But year after year, her daughter didn't come back and didn't ask. One afternoon, after a short video call, Virginia finally asked her, do you want me to hold on to those old things of yours, the boxes in the attic? Her daughter looked surprised. Honestly, you can let them go. I don't even remember what's in them. Virginia nodded, smiled, softly ended the call, and quietly went upstairs. She opened each box. No tears, no drama, just a quiet stream of memories spilling out. A pair of ballet flats her daughter used to wear, a neighbor's essay, a towel embroidered with the words, best mom ever. Virginia kept just 3 things, placed them in a small box in case someday her daughter came home so she could pass them on. The rest she repacked carefully and labeled the box. You were here and you've grown. She took them to the recycling center with a light heart, not because she threw anything away, but because she had finally dared to stop carrying someone else's past for them. Now a question for you. Are you keeping anything not for yourself, but for someone else? Something your child left behind, a gift box you thought your grandchild might want, a suitcase someone said they'd come back for if they haven't asked in 5, 10, even 15 years. And the real question is no longer do they need it, but rather am I holding on to this because I'm afraid to let go of being the keeper. Virginia used to think, I'm keeping this because I love them, but later she admitted, I kept it because I was afraid that if I let it go, I wouldn't matter anymore. You don't need to hold on to every object to hold on to your place in the family. You don't need to carry memories for those who are already moving on. In the next part, Virginia learns how to make a very small change that creates a surprisingly big impact. It doesn't start with a whole room. It doesn't take an entire day. It begins with just 15 minutes. Rule number 6, one small spot a day is how you go the distance. Virginia once tried decluttering the whole house in a single weekend. The result, back pain, sore arms, a sour mood, and most importantly, nothing changed. She told me, I once forced myself to clean everything by Sunday. By the end, I was flat on my back for 3 days and didn't want to touch a thing for the next month. Then one day, she came across a note in an old journal. Starting is the hardest part, but starting small is the only way. Virginia decided to try something new. 15 minutes a day, just one spot, just one place, no more, no pressure, no rush. Day 1, she chose the drawer by the entryway. Inside, dead batteries, old keys, bills from 10 years ago she kept.